British military action.
The NATO ambassadors this morning expressed their full support for the actions of the United States and the United Kingdom, which follow the appalling attacks perpetrated against the United States on the 11th of September 2001.
On behalf, I know, of the great majority of the Australian people, I express very strong support for the action initiated by the Americans and supported by British forces.
The Mexican government has been assured by its authors that this operation is not aimed against civilians, nor any creed, religion, or ideological persuasion. It seeks to combat the scourge of terrorism in all of its forms. The Mexican government firmly supports these actions.
Germany, France, Canada and Australia have all pledged military support if needed. And NATO has agreed to dispatch 5 AWACS radar planes to the United States so Washington can free up its radar planes for use elsewhere. The U.S.-led strikes against Afghanistan have seemingly won the battle for American public support, at least in these early hours. According to a new CNN USA Today Gallup poll conducted after the first reports of the offensive, 9 out of 10 Americans approve of the military action. Only 1 in 20 disapprove. But some of that support erodes if future military action calls for ground troops. 77% of those polled say they would support the use of ground troops. 17% would oppose such a deployment. Now, some military perspective on the mission's objectives and challenges. For that, we turn to retired Air Force Major General Don Shepard in Washington. Welcome back, sir.
Morning, Paula.
So, Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld described at least the first phase of this mission as successful. What might the second phase be involved? What might the, I'm sorry, I'm getting something in my ear. What might the second phase be like once it unfolds?
Well, Paul, it's going to be a continuation of the first phase. It's probably a 3 to 5 day air campaign basically aimed at the air defense structure and fixed targets in the beginning. At the same time we're carrying out that air campaign, we'll be reassessing the strikes that we've already done to see if they're successful and retargeting some of that. The whole idea is to take down the air defense system so that we can operate at will and then go against the fielded forces of the Taliban, the vehicles, the tanks, and that type of thing.
I know we're going to be getting more information from the Pentagon later this afternoon, but are you aware of how much resistance the coalition got as they tried to make these strikes?
Yeah, not much. I tell you, if I could go to the telestrator here and kind of draw a picture for you of what we've done and what may be coming up, it may be helpful.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
I'm going to go to the telestrator here, and first of all, with a map of Afghanistan and some of the major cities, I'm going to put some X's along the border. These X's represent, if you will, the early warning radars that that the Taliban will be used to see from what direction our airplanes are coming. I'm going to erase those now because we tried to take them out in the early strikes. In addition, I'm going to use some stars to put representative locations of various airports. Those airports would contain some of the MiG fighter aircraft owned by the Taliban, and then next to those airports I'm going to put some circles that would represent surface-to-air missile sites. The initial strikes were designed to take out those early warning radars that I took off the screen, and then to attack these airports and specifically the airplanes that are in shelters and on the ground. Now, if we can find out where they are, we'll hit them, but sometimes they'll be camouflaged, they'll be in structures, they will be mocks put around there to fool us and what have you. We, in that case, may bomb the runway to keep them from taking off. You don't want to do too much damage because we have ways to take out airfields for minutes, weeks, days, and even years. We want to be careful in case we want to use it later. The idea is to put all of this down, and once we put that down, I'll go ahead and erase it and do some drawing here. Then the Northern Alliance forces, which are in the northeastern area of the country, after we put down these forces and start against the fielded forces of the Taliban, we are hopeful that the Northern Alliance can move toward other cities and perhaps take back Kabul and even eventually Kandahar. That's the whole idea of the campaign, Paula.
Yeah, it's interesting that you should talk about the Northern Alliance because Pakistani President Musharraf said earlier today that the Northern Alliance should not take advantage of these airstrikes.
Yeah,
What's he thinking?
Well, I'm not sure what he's thinking, but clearly in our estimation, the right thing to do is to put pressure on the Taliban to take away their warfighting capability so that the Northern Alliance can do its work and so that the Afghan people can take back Afghanistan and some type of coalition government. Clearly that's what we're after, Paula.
So does it surprise you to hear that kind of talk from the Pakistani president?
Nothing in this campaign from anywhere surprises me. This is a worldwide campaign with political overtones in all of the countries that their own administrations and their own leaders have to handle. This is not surprising. It's going to be a long campaign with many ups and downs, gives and takes. This is different than anything we've seen before. It's not bombs and bullets. It's bombs and bullets and food and politics all mixed together. This is very, very strange for the American public, and it's going to take a lot of patience, Paula.
General Shepard, you made another point about wanting to take out the MiG fighters that the Taliban has and then maybe destroy some of the runways. What are the chances that the coalition forces will need some of these runways?
Well, there's a big difference in this campaign from what we saw in Kosovo. General Wes Clark in Kosovo had his hands tied. We announced ahead of time that we were not going to use ground troops from the United States. This time, people are guessing whether we're going to use them. It's been clear that we've deployed up to 1,000 of them so far. It's been announced from the 10th Mountain Division into Uzbekistan. More may follow, and they may or may not be used. The Taliban and others have to guess. But this time, the threat is there to use ground troops if necessary, and that's a lot different than Kosovo.
All right, Jen Shepard, as always, thanks for your insights. Appreciate it.